Hello, and welcome to NewPod. Jacob leaves his family and spends the night alone, using a stone as a pillow. In the middle of his escape, God renews an immense promise to him. Welcome to this episode about Jacob's dream at Bethel. We will follow a worried man caught between a troubled past and an unknown future. His story raises a deeply human question. What happens to our choices, fears, and hopes when everything familiar seems to fade away? We will do more than retell this ancient story. It can shed light on the timeless experience of moving forward without knowing what lies ahead.
To understand that night, we need to look at Jacob's family. This is the age of the patriarchs. Abraham received the promise, and his son Isaac carried it in turn. Jacob is one of the sons of Isaac and Rebekah. His brother is Esau. Before this journey, their relationship was torn apart over the birthright and their father's blessing. Jacob obtained the blessing through deception. Esau's anger made it dangerous for him to remain at home. Rebekah wanted to protect Jacob. Isaac told him to go to his mother's family and find a wife there.
Yes, Jacob does not leave as a carefree traveler. He sets out from Beersheba toward Haran. Behind him are his aging father, his mother, his wounded brother, and a blessing received amid conflict. Ahead lies a long road and a distant destination. The text does not simplify anything. The family promise moves forward through fragile people. Jacob carries the blessing, yet he is also running away. That tension drives the story. Will the word given to the patriarchs stay with Jacob far from home? And what will he discover about God along the way?
Evening comes before Jacob reaches his destination. He stops at a place that, to him, is not yet sacred. The sun has set. He takes a stone from that place and puts it near his head. Then he lies down to sleep. The story is spare. No shelter is mentioned. No companion speaks to him. That simplicity makes the scene striking. Jacob wanted the blessing so badly, yet now he owns nothing but a place to spend the night. His family is far away, and so is safety. The journey has suspended everything he thought he held.
Then the dream comes. Jacob sees a stairway standing on the earth, with its top reaching heaven. Angels of God go up and down on it. The image joins what seemed separate. The ground where the fugitive sleeps has not been abandoned by heaven. The movement of the messengers suggests an active presence. Jacob does not create this encounter. He is asleep. He does not climb the stairway. He receives a vision. That matters. When he controls neither the road nor the consequences of his past, God takes the initiative. An ordinary place becomes the setting for a revelation.
And the Lord stands beside him. He identifies himself as the God of Abraham and the God of Isaac. Jacob is not cut off from the story that came before him. The word he receives that night is rooted in an established covenant. God promises him the land on which he is lying. He announces countless descendants who will spread in every direction. All the families of the earth will be blessed through him and his offspring. This already reaches beyond one man's survival. Jacob's future becomes part of a blessing meant to extend far beyond him.
The promise then becomes deeply personal. God does not speak only about distant generations. He addresses the traveler's immediate fear. Its central message is easy to remember: I am with you. God promises to protect Jacob wherever he goes. He also promises to bring him back to this land. Finally, he says he will not leave Jacob until he has done what he promised. Every part answers Jacob's situation. Jacob leaves alone. God promises his presence. He crosses unknown country. God promises protection. He leaves his land. God promises a return.
Wait, because this is the turning point. Outwardly, nothing has changed. Jacob is still lying outside. The road to Haran is still ahead. The conflict with Esau remains unresolved. Yet his situation now has a new meaning. He learns that God's presence is not confined to his father's house. The God of his ancestors can meet him in a nameless place, in the middle of his escape. Jacob might have thought that leaving had broken every bond. Instead, the dream reveals a greater faithfulness traveling with him.
Jacob wakes up. His first response blends amazement and fear. He realizes that the Lord is in this place, although he did not know it. Then he calls the place awe-inspiring. He sees it as the house of God and the gate of heaven. Waking up does not erase the distance between God and humanity. This newly discovered closeness is not ordinary. It inspires reverence. Jacob understands that the place where he simply looked for rest now carries a meaning he had not seen. His outlook changes before his route does.
In the morning, Jacob takes concrete action. He picks up the stone that was near his head and sets it upright as a pillar. Then he pours oil on top of it. It remains the stone from his night, but its purpose changes. It becomes a memorial, making the encounter visible. Jacob names the place Bethel, meaning house of God. The text notes that the city once had another name. By giving it this new name, Jacob does not claim that he brought God there. He recognizes a presence that was there before him.
Next, Jacob makes a vow. He repeats the promise in terms of his immediate needs. If God is with him, protects him on the road, gives him food to eat and clothes to wear, and brings him safely back to his father's house, then the Lord will be his God. The standing stone will be God's house. Jacob also promises to give God 1/10 of everything he receives. His language is cautious. He does not yet speak with the maturity that future trials may develop in him.
Exactly. It would be too easy to turn this vow into a perfect formula or to dismiss it as bargaining. The story shows a man at the beginning of a journey. God spoke with generosity and stated no condition. Jacob answers like a traveler concerned about safety, food, clothing, and returning home. His faith is real, but it still carries his fear. He names a place, raises a stone, and makes a commitment. He begins to respond. The change is genuine, even if it is not complete. Bethel is a milestone, not the destination.
The immediate consequences are quiet but profound. Jacob must continue his journey. He receives no instant solution to the family conflict, and he does not return to Esau at once. But he carries a word with him. His sleeping place has become a landmark. The stone has become a sign. His departure is no longer merely an escape. It is also a journey under the promise of protection and return. The dream does not remove the trials ahead. It gives him a horizon within which he can face them.
Now consider the human side. Jacob bears the consequences of a wounded family story. His desire for blessing collided with rivalry, parental favoritism, deception, and anger. The text does not ask us to ignore these tensions, nor does it portray Jacob as a flawless hero. On the road, he must live with what he has done and what he fears. A speech does not erase that fear. A presence meets him within it. That is where his transformation begins. Little by little, he learns that receiving a promise does not mean controlling how it is fulfilled. Spiritually, God's initiative dominates the scene. Jacob does not earn the vision through something he does that night. He stops because daylight ends and sleeps because he is traveling. God reveals himself, recalls his identity, renews the promise, and assures Jacob of his presence. Yet that presence does not automatically approve every choice Jacob has made. It is a faithfulness that accompanies him through a process. God protects a fragile person without denying his fragility. He calls Jacob to truly enter the story whose blessing he once tried to obtain. From a biblical perspective, the continuity is clear. The God who speaks to Jacob identifies himself in relation to Abraham and Isaac. The land, the descendants, and the blessing of all families continue the words already given to the patriarchs. But this is more than repetition. The promise now reaches Jacob personally. It can no longer belong only to his grandfather's or his father's story. It finds him during his own departure. A new generation now receives the responsibility to walk with this word amid circumstances of its own.
And the consequences reach far beyond his life. The promised descendants place Jacob in Israel's future. The blessing intended for every family on earth gives the story a universal horizon. Yet the passage does not leap straight into that future. It keeps the stone, the night, the bread, and the clothing in view. That is one strength of the biblical text. God's vast purpose unfolds through very concrete needs. The story of salvation moves forward through real lives, with their journeys, families, fears, and still imperfect commitments. For today, we can first recognize our own times of transition. There are seasons when familiar surroundings fall away. A decision has been made. A relationship remains wounded. The future seems open, but not necessarily reassuring. Bethel does not promise that every difficult night will contain a dream. Instead, the story invites us not to reduce an uncertain stage to what we immediately perceive. A place experienced as a simple stop can become a place of truth. An interruption can reveal what travels with us, what we are fleeing, and what we truly expect.
It can help to name the situation precisely. Perhaps it is an exhausting weight. Perhaps jealousy is distorting a relationship. Perhaps a promise we made needs to be taken seriously again. Or perhaps we long for reconciliation, but it is not yet possible. The text offers no quick method. It gives us a framework for honest reflection. Jacob is not asked to deny his past. He receives a promise that lets him move toward a longer work. Naming what needs to change already helps us leave the fog, without pretending we can resolve the whole story alone.
Jealousy deserves special attention. Within a family, the desire for recognition can become rivalry. We may imagine blessing as a limited share that must be seized before someone else gets it. The story of Jacob and Esau shows the wounds this logic creates. Bethel widens the frame. God speaks of a blessing meant to reach every family on earth. That does not erase the wrong between the brothers, but it challenges the idea that God's future is built by human competition alone. Receiving the promise calls for a change in how we relate to others and to the gift itself.
Reconciliation has not yet happened in this passage. That must be said. Jacob does not wake up to a restored family. First, he resumes his journey. The promised return lies in the future. Many human journeys work that way. An encounter with God can redirect a life without producing every consequence at once. Trust is then tested over time, through repeated choices, and sometimes through accepting a long wait. Bethel gives Jacob a word to walk with. That word does not let him skip the stages still separating him from his return.
Passing on faith also stands at the heart of the story. Jacob receives the God of Abraham and Isaac as the one who speaks to him now. A living tradition is more than repeating the names of earlier generations. It becomes encounter, listening, and response in a new situation. For us, passing something on may mean faithfully telling what was received without hiding the frailty of those who carried it. It may also mean allowing an ancient word to illuminate a present decision. Faithfulness does not mechanically copy the past. It receives an inheritance and accepts responsibility for it.
A simple practice can extend this listening through the week. Choose a quiet moment. Slowly reread Genesis chapter 28. Verses 10 through 22. On one side, note the verbs describing what God does. On the other, note Jacob's actions and words. This distinction keeps us from confusing the divine promise with the human response. Then identify one specific stage in your life that feels like a transition. There is no need for a dramatic conclusion. It may be enough to honestly express a fear, a hope, or a commitment that needs renewed attention.
We can also choose a concrete action. Contact someone again, if doing so is right and possible. Stop feeding a comparison. Keep a simple promise. Or create a small personal memorial, not to make an object sacred, but to remember a commitment made before God. Jacob's action shows that memory needs signs. The standing stone connects the morning to the night of the dream. Our actions can also keep a sound insight from disappearing as soon as ordinary life resumes. They do not replace transformation. They give it something to rest on. So let us return to the central idea. Amid human choices, frailty, and upheaval, a greater story continues to unfold. The dream at Bethel denies neither wrongdoing, fear, nor family division. It shows a promise passing through these realities without being reduced to them. Jacob discovers that God is present where he did not expect him. He receives assurance of protection and return. Then he gets up, raises a stone, and continues his journey. The faithfulness he receives becomes light for a road that is still unfinished.
We can now let this episode's question resonate without turning it into a direct demand. Each person can quietly ask which part of the Bethel story most closely touches life today. Is it the departure, the fear, the promise, the unexpected presence, the need to return, or Jacob's still fragile response? This question does not call for a rushed answer. It can accompany a rereading of the passage. It can also open a space for reflection where the story remains distinct from our lives while truly shedding light on them.
Let us take a moment to pray. Lord, open our minds to your word. Through the story of the dream at Bethel, help us recognize our own struggles. Teach us to welcome your call. Help us move forward with greater truth, trust, and faithfulness. When our paths become uncertain, keep us from confusing your presence with our impressions. When the past pursues us, lead us through the patient work of transformation. When we receive a promise, broaden our vision beyond our own interests. Be with us in our departures, our waiting, and our returns. Amen.
Jacob leaves Bethel with a word, a vow, and a road still ahead. The story does not stop with the dream. He will enter a new part of his life, meet his relatives, and face new tensions involving family, work, waiting, and faithfulness. The next stages will show how the promise received that night accompanies a man who still needs to grow. For now, keep this simple image in mind. A stone beneath his head, a stairway between earth and heaven, and a traveler who gets up because he now knows he does not walk alone.